Yes, it's a very well welcome to Drive Time to UFC Heavyweight interim champion. Tom Aspinall joins us. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, mate.
What's it like to be called heavyweight champion of the world? That's nuts, right?
Not really, to be honest. I don't like sounding cocky about it, but I think that I was always supposed to be the heavyweight champion, to be honest. I expected it, and I think a lot of people around me who've been around me for a long time expected it as well. So,
but there's a difference between expecting it,
yeah,
and then hearing your name called out as the new, albeit interim. I don't care about that sort of stuff, but you are the heavyweight champion of the world in UFC. That is bonkers. Every morning you wake up, do you like look in the mirror and smile to yourself?
No, it's pretty real. I think under the circumstances that I did it in, I was in the worst circumstances possible. You know, I found out about the fight 2 weeks before. I didn't have a visa, so I only actually found out that I was going to New York a couple of days before I actually left for New York. I had a couple of injuries and stuff that I had to, held me back from training. And I think, and my opponent, mate, I had an unbelievable opponent who was running through everyone in the first round. So I think under the circumstances, it went very well.
You know, I know, listen, all you guys are confident in your own ability and you feel you can win every fight, but to knock him out in 1 minute and 9 seconds, surely that must have even surprised yourself.
Well, I'm a heavyweight and the gloves are really small, and I'm aware that can happen, and that's pretty common at heavyweight. I wasn't supposed to knock him out so quick. I thought it was going to be a later fight. I thought, especially with his power, like he is the hardest puncher in the UFC at the moment. And I thought that I would need longer time for him to maybe miss a little bit, get tired, and then I'll start my attacks later in the fight. But I landed one, it was a good one, and thank God it was over and it went well.
I watched the fight this afternoon just to remind myself of it. I think the first thing you do in the fight is actually throw like a leg kick.
Yeah.
And it wobbles him, actually.
Yeah.
Your game plan going into it, I'm guessing they're different for every single fight you have. Was that done on purpose? The first thing you would throw at him will be a leg kick just to make him wobble and assess him? Or there was quite a lot of leg kicks in that opening round, actually. Is that different how you usually fight? I
mean, leg kicks are a weapon that I use a lot, for sure. But with a guy like him, he's very heavy on his feet and he charges forward a lot. So I think that's good tactics to try and take his legs out so he can't charge forward as well. And they were working, I wasn't supposed to land it straight away as such. It was just, feel the fight out, land the leg kicks, and specifically I was landing calf kicks, which kind of take your feet away when you start kicking the front, like the muscle next to the shin. When you make that dead, it's hard to step on your legs. So that was part of the game.
If we set that up, can you do it to Bentley?
I can definitely do it.
Yeah,
no problem.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just try it. No, just for the radio, just try it.
What? Snap my leg in half?
Would you snap his leg if you did it to him?
No, I wouldn't snap his leg.
There you go, won't snap your leg.
But
you definitely feel it.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
He's ex-sportsman, he won't feel it. Will you do it?
No.
Okay.
I've got to ask you about the preparation for a 2-week fight, because as you said there, it's one of those where you've not got a full fight camp.
Yeah.
You only get 2 weeks' notice. I mean, what's your preparation like going into that?
Well, I'll be honest, you can't really prepare for a fight in 2 weeks. It's impossible, especially when you're flying across the world. You know what I mean? You've got time changes. You got to deal with the time change. That's really difficult on its own.
Sorry, so when did you land over in New York?
The Saturday before, so a week before.
You had 1 week to
I had a week. Yeah. I had a week, and in the day after I found out about the fight, I pulled my back as well, so I couldn't even. I had to have 3 days off training straight away. It was wild. It was absolutely wild. So I basically didn't really have a training camp at all. Obviously, I take my sport very seriously, whether I've got a fight or not. So I'm always training anyway. But being in shape and being in fight shape are two completely different things.
Ben is an ex-footballer, and I've asked this question to him and many footballers before. When they take to the field, more often than not, after maybe the first 8 weeks of a season, because obviously pre-season you'd expect them to be pretty fit, but it's very rare that a footballer goes into a football match without any problems whatsoever. They've always got little niggles. Is that the same for UFC?
Oh yeah, of course. Like if you're redlining your body and training hard, especially as a guy my size, a big guy, there's a lot of injuries. You know what I mean? I really have to be careful with my preparations and my sparring. It's really, really important that I train with heavyweights as a big guy, but also you've got to be conscious to not kill each other in the training room. Do you know what I mean? And injuries happen so much at heavyweight that I really, really got to be careful with the guy. Luckily, I've got a great team around me, and I trust everybody I train with. Nobody's too crazy, but accidents happen.
What percentage are you training at? When you're fighting a UFC fight, it's 100%. You're going for him.
Yeah.
What does that come down to in training?
As close to that as you can without anyone getting injured.
Wow.
Obviously, we're not going to spar with 4-ounce gloves on. Someone's going to get knocked out. Do you know what I mean? We spar with full-size boxing gloves on, 16s, 18s, stuff like that. And the intensity's brought down a little bit, but you have to go you don't want to be getting in the fight, mate, getting shocked with the intensity. Do you know what I mean? You need to replicate that in the gym as much as you can without getting injured.
Got to ask you, obviously Michael Bisping, he did it 2016, short week's notice. Whose was better, yours or his?
That's a great question, actually. Well, just to wind Bisping up, I was going to say mine's better, but I think his was also a great win. So I don't know, because I think with my opponent, nobody gave me a chance. Absolutely nobody gave me a chance. But again, it was similar for him. He fought Luke Rockhold, who at the time was absolutely steamrolling everybody. So I would say they were very similar, to be honest. They're very similar. I don't want to say anyone's was better.
We think yours, by the way, because you're
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to say mine. I'm going to say mine. Forget about
I'll
mine.
say anything you want me to say, by the way. Do you, when you take a fight at such short notice, sometimes can it benefit you if you've got weeks and weeks, maybe months to think about it?
Yeah,
you can get negative thoughts into your mind?
With me, definitely it did. Because before, I had so much to sort out. I had to sort out my training, the small training camp that I could do, which was a week. And then I had to sort out my visa. I was back and forth to London. I'm from Manchester, so, it's quite far. A couple of times to get my visa. I was doing phone calls.
Do you have to do it? Do you have to go to the embassy? You can't get someone to do it for you?
No, you can't get someone to do it for you. Queuing up in the embassy a couple of days and phone calls and the logistics of the flight and who am I going to bring and what training partners are we going to bring. There was no time to think about it. Before I know it, mate, I'm walking out Madison Square Garden. I'm looking across the octagon from my opponent. Donald Trump's looking back at me, mate. It's absolutely insane.
And you smash him 1 minute, 9 seconds, it's all over. Thanks
good,
for coming.
Good. I don't want to do it any longer than that if I don't have to. Do you know, especially against that guy, big, massive Russian who's knocking everyone out, swinging punches at me. I don't want to be in there longer than that if I don't have to.
I've always wondered this, and we spoke about it earlier. When you're in the octagon and then they lock the cage and you're looking at your opponent, what's going through your mind then? And also, with people that you fought before, can you look at their eyes and go, he doesn't fancy it today? Or is every single one of your opponents looking at you like, I'm going to beat you?
Yeah, everyone's cut, mate. If you're fighting in the top 10, top 5 in the UFC, everyone's elite. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's there to win. It's not like I don't mean to
boxing.
Say anything bad about boxing.
Of course.
But a lot of them fights, mate, you know who's going to win and who's going to lose before they even step in there. UFC, it's 50-50 fights from the get-go. Do you know what I mean? So everyone in there is there to win. And you can see that, you know what I mean? You can see it in their eyes. You look across, you got some massive scary guy looking back at you, and you find out it separates the men from the boys a little bit. That
we'll talk about boxing a bit later on, but just going on what you've just said, that's why I think you get explosive fights in UFC. You got no promoters saying my fighter won't fight that fighter.
No.
You got no one talking about what station or what broadcasters are going to go with it, and it's always the top boys fighting. So I imagine your next fight will be against, if he's back fit, John Jones or not.
Yep, of course
it will. So when will that be? Do you have any understanding of
it? All depends on him, really. I obviously want to unify the belts. I want to be the undisputed champion. But also I want the guy who everyone's calling the greatest of all time. I want his name on my resume, and I want to be in the win column before he retires. I've only just turned 30. I'm a heavyweight. I've got another 10 years left of this stuff. But
really, you've got to 40 in that division.
Yeah, easy. There's some people fighting in the mid-40s in the heavyweight division still. I mean, I don't want to do that, but I want to be done by the time I'm 40. But like him, he's done everything that there is to do in the sport, really, and he doesn't have long left, so I want to fight him before his career's done.
You said it there. Do you put him in that category as the greatest of all time?
I don't. I think that GSP is the greatest of all time, personally. I think John Jones is number 2 for sure, but in my opinion, GSP is the best of all time.
Can I ask as well, you could tell me to mind my own business, when you go into a fight like this and you come out the other side the victor, what happens to the purse? They offer you a purse to have this fight and it's irrelevant of what happens?
In this case, because I got a new contract now, but before this, you're on I can't speak for everyone, I can only speak for my own contract, but I was on like a 50-50 split, so you get what's called show money, which is your money to show up, and then you get your win money, which is double your show money, usually.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's the way that my contract was set up, at least. As I said, I can't speak for everybody.
And that's because UFC control it all, that's like non-negotiable, that this is the offer for the fight and so on.
Depends where you're at in the UFC, to be honest. Obviously, now I've got a lot more power than I did, like negotiating power than I did before. And now it's great. I get like a flat fee, which is amazing. Win or lose, I get the same money. But not everybody's at that. A lot of the time, it will be 50-50 for a long period of time. And stuff like taking the risk that I did, taking the fight on short notice, obviously you get more like bargaining power with stuff like that. But as you said, with the UFC, you get one promotion. And if you don't want to agree with it, get your walking papers and that's it. You can go and find another job. And yeah, that's there's a lot of pressure. Every fight, there's a lot of pressure in the UFC.
talkSPORT Drive. Super opinionated sporting debate. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.